had a completely different video plan that I was going to do, but as I was getting stuff to set up to make that video, I realized I wanted to do something else.
Hi, I am Nick D. Clements, and I used to make stuff like this. So I picked up a new table. Tables here have a habit of just things get put on them, which is what they're for, but I needed a table to do a video, and I figured I'd just get another one. And then I decided I'm gonna turn the table into the video because I got some paper just to put over the table to protect it, and I decided that I actually want to make a holder for the roll of paper. So I can always have, you know, a couple sheets stored, ready to go. And this is just a roll from the Dollar Tree. I think that's plenty enough. You should be able to recover the table at least 5 or 6 times. So I just want to build something pretty minimal that'll just mount a roll right on the edge of the table. You can pull it across. We'll probably secure it on that end. So the first thing I want to do is I do want to make this roll a bit shorter. I want it to be pretty much the exact length of the table. So we're gonna chop that off. A couple pieces of plywood to make the brackets with. I first stick those 2 pieces of wood together with some double-sided tape so I can make 2 identical brackets. I'm pretty much just designing this on the fly, just kind of tracing it out for what I think will work. This little protrusion that I'm drawing here should make sense a little bit later. And with that design drawn out, I moved to the bandsaw to do a rough cut. And then take it over to the belt sander to clean up that final shape.
Well now, that's the peanut.
Next, to drill a hole in the tip roughly the size of this PVC pipe fitting. Still with both of those brackets attached, so the hole is in the exact same place in both. Drilling a couple mounting holes. Now I don't necessarily need to remove the built-in nut from this fitting, but it would make it look a bit better. So I'm just going to spin them on the belt sander, but instead of just spinning them by hand, I'm going to snugly chuck them onto the end of a drill and then spin the drill so I can sand it nice and evenly. And quite quickly. You can see how fast the nut gets rounded out and just disappears. Time to separate the 2 brackets and attach it to the table. I'm not doing anything fancy here, just screwing it onto the edge of the table. However, I should have made the brackets a fair bit longer, but just rolling with the punches, I use much longer screws and that works well enough. I want to attach the screw fittings I sanded to each end of the pipe. If you recall, I said that CPVC fits perfectly inside PVC.
The piece of CPVC fits perfectly into the piece of PVC.
Well, not always. But using the same drill method I used for the fittings, the pipe diameter can easily be sanded down for a perfect fit. Cutting the pipe to the final length and pressing in the fittings, you should see now how this is going to work. I can feed the pipe through the brackets and screw on the end caps to keep the pipe in place. So to add a roll of paper, just unscrew one of the caps, slide on the roll, feed the pipe through the bracket and screw on the cap. To answer what the protrusions are for, they are to hold a dowel. And on that dowel will be some PVC parts, a T-fitting, and an end cap to act as a handle. You know what it is yet? Yeah, hopefully a cutter to make removal of the used paper easier. Now I don't want to cut into the table, so to protect it, I'm just going to use some of this dollar store cutting board. I'll cut a few strips about the width of my tape. And then just attach them to the table below where the cutter will be with some double-sided carpet tape. Really handy stuff and quite strong. I'm sure you've seen me use it several times. To make the blade for the cutter, I have a washer that I'm going to attempt to sharpen. Very much like what John did when he made his sandpaper cutter.
And I'm going to put the drill in reverse so that the washer doesn't come loose. And sharpen it with a file.
It seemed to be getting sharper, but preliminary tests weren't that promising. I screwed it onto my little cutter handle, and of course screwed it onto the dowel as well. But I just ground down the screw so it was short as possible. And it didn't work. Like, not even a little bit. So I figured I'd take that off and put on an actual blade from a rotary cutter to see if that even worked. Okay, so if you use a real blade, it works just fine. Thankfully, I immediately realized how dangerous what I had just made was and moved on to something else before anything bad happened. You don't believe me? I have this little ceramic cutter, so I pry that open to remove the blade and see about attaching that to my little cutter. Alright, so I've been prototyping this a bit off camera, and I cut a slit in the bottom, not quite all the way through in the back, and I just wedged it in there, and then I glued just a little piece of a paper clip to prevent it from kind of going back in. I'm really not happy with it, but it does work. And it doesn't cut all the way across, which isn't that big of a deal. I mean, it's really pretty gimmicky, but it's just to make, you know, removing the paper a bit easier. So I'm gonna leave that like that for now. Maybe I'll come back to this cutting thing at some point, come up with something better. I mean, paper cutters like this, that's all the blade is. Just a tiny little point. So that's all I should need to just slice this paper. So maybe some sort of 3D printed solution that can somehow clamp in like an X-Acto blade, something that's readily available, and then just, you know, ride along that dowel maybe a set screw to make it slightly adjustable. I don't know, but there's definitely a better solution than this. So let's just finish up on the other side of the table. Sanding some magnets to give them some more surface area for the glue, and then attaching them to the side of the table. And then attaching a second set of magnets to a wood strip to act as the clamp. Well, there it is. As far as an initial prototype, I think it's great. I think it definitely covers all the functions that I wanted it to. I'm not super thrilled with it overall. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, but for the initial build, yeah, I think it's great. Everything works. The paper clamp works. I am quite pleased with the mounting method. I think this this pipe came out pretty cool, and then just being able to unscrew one of those caps. Slide it through the paper roll, screw the cap back on. That's good. That system's solid. The brackets, I mean, they get the job done. I would like to come up with something a little bit different. Probably should have extended it a bit further. The extreme rounded corners on the table, I didn't quite take those into consideration, so I had to kind of extend the screws. Definitely least happy with the cutting mechanism. I hate it. I mean, it's kind of gimmicky in the first place, but it'll get the job done, but I'm not at all happy. Would really like it to look a little bit better than it does, and I would like a more universal solution, something that you could do, you know, easily. Because like I said, I just found this blade upstairs. I have no idea where it comes from, where you get another one. It does work. You still have to rip the ends, but it makes cutting off a sheet when it's all done much easier than trying to rip the whole thing, or having like a blade along the whole thing where you'd rip it, especially if there's a lot of stuff on it. Being able to slice it, then you can kind of roll it up that way, which I think that's a good thing to have. I think I like the idea of the paper slicer here. I just wish I'd come up with a better blade design and safer blade design. But it all works, and so it's a very good starting point. If I get the itch to do a version 2.0, I have plenty of ground to stand on, and so I know all the things that I like and what I don't like. But bottom line, it is definitely functional, a nice clean work surface, easy to renew, and if you squint at it, I think it looks pretty sharp. Now, not too sharp. But my sincere thank you for watching. Once again, I am Nick D. Clements, if you're wondering. Nick is short for Nicholas, and the D stands for Deborah. Anyway, I'm off to make something else. I might even like this French cleat more than that 2x4. Favorite piece of 2x4. Just being able to hang up the paper cutter on the wall where it takes up absolutely no space, where you can even use it on the wall, or immediately take it down and take it somewhere else. Oh, it's so good.